Hi there, it's your friend Phil here, project management trainer and coach. A student of mine, Megan, said, I've got the exam coming up tomorrow. What advice do you have for my final day of study? So I thought I'd put this together for Megan to give us some quick tips of how to get ready for the exam. You're just a day away. What exactly should you do? If I was taking the exam all over again, the first thing I would do is go mentally through my head all the chapters in the book. Hopefully I've taken notes, and this isn't my first time of really doing a systems check on how well did I prepare and do I know all the things I need to. Hopefully you've already done that, but if you were just one day away, I would use the summaries at the end of each chapter in the book. You see, at the end of each chapter in the Project Management Essentials book, we've got some tips and tricks for the exam. I would suggest that you go through those tips and tricks and know them, especially when you hit chapter 4 in the book. Chapter 4 begins talking about project integration management tips for the exam, which of course is broken down by process group. But I was going to flip to the back of that chapter. So exam tips: understand all project selection methods, understand why NPV is the best project selection method to use, and understand all the ITTOs, understand the project charter and all subsidiary plans, and so on and so forth. So you can read all of that information in the book, and just make sure you do that for every single chapter in the book. Now, after you've done that, gone through all the exam tips in the book, I'd like you to go through all of the chapters in your head. So let's start off with chapter 1. Chapter 1, for me, the key things to know in chapter 1 are the definitions. And I'm talking about really reading those definitions one last time for programs, projects, and portfolios, and also the operations. Very important to be able to distinguish between these. Also, when we begin to talk about the term governance, understand what that means to you in project management when we talk about governance. Going into chapter 2, definitely you want to know what a PMO is. You want to know what the different organization types are. Organization types, talking about those organization structures: matrix, projectized, functional, composite, all of that stuff. Make sure you know it. Talking about different phase to phase relationships. And I'm not talking about sitting down for hours on end. I'm talking about like a 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, boom, 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 going through this checklist, making sure you've read the definitions one last time, looking for any words that you do not know, you don't understand, that seem to be a little bit esoteric to you. Make sure you decrypt them and know what they mean. Talking about different project life cycles. You know, when we begin talking about fully plan-driven, talking about agile methods, or change-driven, talking about the iterative life cycles. Read those definitions, know what they mean. And when we go into chapter 3, this is where the fun begins. Chapter 3 is all about the 5 process groups, which of course you know in your sleep by now. Otherwise, heaven help you. The 10 knowledge areas, the 47 processes, all that stuff. Basically, that table, the infamous table on page 61, right? The table that has the 10 and the 5. Hopefully you know that in your sleep. There's actually no need to go into it, because if you don't know it by now, well, not that this is going to come out on the exam. Let me just say that this is not a showstopper. I mean, if you're taking the CAPM, I'll get more worried if you didn't know this. If you're taking the PMP, this is part of life. I mean, this comes without saying. You should know this by now. If you don't know this by now, I wonder what you've been doing for 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah, Megan, I know you already know this. So just reinforce it. Just take a look down at the different, initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling and closing. Make sure you know what exactly is what. And by now, like I said, you already know it. So let's move into chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where we begin to talk about integration management. So if I had my exam tomorrow, what I would do is I would know all of my definitions. I would go through the definitions for each process. Now, there are 47 of them. If you spend a minute going through the definition for each process in the PMBOK, and I'm talking about in the PMBOK, which no one likes to read, or few people like to read, you know what I mean. But read it in the PMBOK, because the PMBOK has that angular, very difficult, thick, viscous, tough to cut through language that people want to run away from. So read it in the PMBOK, read the language, because on the exam you could have PMBOK language. The language isn't going to be direct. It's going to have a lot of crud, a lot of stuff that you need to cut out. So get used to the PMBOK language. I know it's one day away, but get used to that language for the definitions. Okay, regarding the ITTOs in the different processes, I would say look for the unique ITTOs in the different processes. Now I need to take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'll finish off integration, and then we'll move into chapters 5 to 13 about what I think you need for your final day. So welcome back. We're still talking about what to do on the final day leading up to your PMP. So I'm talking about integration management. I've covered chapters 1 to 3. For chapters 4, I said know the definitions, spend about a minute knowing all of those definitions in the PMBOK. Also, regarding the PMBOK language, get used to it. If you haven't picked up the PMBOK before your final day, it scares me. I hope you have. Know the ITTOs in the different processes, but I'm talking about those unique ITTOs. So, to show you an example here. By the way, I wish you success. That is my special postcard that I give to all my students in the program. You can do it. You've got the magic formula. Well, hopefully you do. So I would advise you to go to this tabular grid at the end of each chapter. You know this one. This is in our book, okay? So looking down, you can see the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. I want you to look for those unique ITTOs, the ones that jump out at you, that you feel, where have I been? I've never seen that ITTO in my life. I have no idea what it is. Those are the ones you want to find out. So looking through the tools and techniques, I mean, facilitation techniques is probably one of the ones that may jump out as not being in every single knowledge area. Those ones, things like that, read them up again. Things like the outputs that are unique, project charter, I would read it again. Truly know what is in the charter. Know that high-level risks, high-level assumptions, high-level constraints, all that stuff are in the charter. Don't just know that the charter is a document that authorizes the project. Know what is in the charter to a T. We've got deliverables here. Hopefully you know the difference between deliverables, verified deliverables, and accepted deliverables. Those are the tiny little things that I would like you to bring out as you go through it. You also, and this is for Megan, I know you've got the PMP Power Review, and to be quite honest, that PMP Power Review, that 6-hour video review that's available by download on our website, the 6-hour download from Praizion.com. For those people who don't have it, this is a great way of you getting the core information into your head, great reminders. So Megan, I think the summary is follow this, use this as a blueprint for all the other chapters, and when you're studying the power review, those things that I'm calling out, which are very unique and probably unheard of to you, those are the